Hi, folks. Ryan Honeyman here from Lift Economy. Many folks have come to us over the last 10 years and asked, how do I get more involved in creating an economy that works for the benefit of all life? They also ask, what skills and experiences do I need to help make this transition? So, 3 years ago, we created something called the Next Economy MBA to help address this and similar questions. Lift Economy's Next Economy MBA is an online course that's designed for entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, students, recent graduates, employees, and folks who want to learn more about transformational next economy strategies and businesses. Join the growing alumni network of nearly 250 alumni who've gone through this program and learned essential skills and hopefully built lifelong relationships for catalyzing businesses in the emergent and regenerative economy. So we encourage you to check out our course. You can go to lifteconomy.com/MBA. The next course, Cohort 7, starts on September 21st, 2021. So once again, go to www.lifteconomy.com/MBA. And now, on with the show. Welcome to Next Economy Now. The goal of this podcast series is to highlight the leaders who are taking a regenerative, bioregional, equitable, democratic, racially just, and whole systems approach to creating the new economy. I'm Ryan Honeyman, a partner at Lift Economy. My guest today is David Jackson, CEO of Evolve Oakland, based in Oakland, California. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ryan. Happy to be here. It's always good to be in conversation with you.
Yeah, same to you, man. So I usually start out with guests to ask about their background and how you first got into the work you're doing today. I am a little bit of an expert in your job history, but if you could lay it out for for folks, like how did you just kind of go over the weaving path a little bit to how you got to where you're doing today?
Yeah, I would say at a high level, I started my entrepreneurial journey at a young age. I grew up in Oakland where money wasn't flowing everywhere. My grandparents couldn't afford all the fancy sneakers and jogging suits, so I started a business early. We call it hustle. They call it entrepreneurship. From there, I knew that I had some type of knack to building businesses in the inner city. From there, I've had a couple other businesses in Oakland, some successful, some not so much, all serving the community in different ways. I moved from there to nonprofit work. Was the ED at a homeless shelter, feeding kitchen, and men's drug and alcohol recovery center. Did some work as a chaplain with the Golden State Warriors for a while, and then I started doing consultancy work, building out operations and systems for faith-driven and for good companies, which landed me with the Impact Hub, which is now Evolve. And so it was the perfect marriage of the 3 P's of my life: purpose, passion, and profession, where I get paid to do what it is that I love to do, and that's helping marginalized folks of color grow and develop businesses and become their best selves.
Thanks for that. You know, in the amount of time I've known you, just for listeners, I've known David for like 4 or 5 years, probably something like that. I don't know if I've ever gotten the actual story of how you got the job with the Warriors. Can you tell that story?
Yeah, it's I call it the story of resilience, and you push the door until it opens. So the lead chaplain at the time he's the current lead chaplain, the chaplain for the San Francisco 49ers. And it's always been a dream for me to share spiritual insightful messages about life with men in sports, always. Ever since I realized I wouldn't make it to the NBA, I at least wanted to kind of help them developmentally, just with life's challenges from a spiritual perspective and lens. And so I live in Oakland. Why not work with the Warriors? And so in 2012, I reached out to the chaplain and he didn't respond. I emailed over and over again, didn't respond. He finally responded 6 months later. He set up a time to meet and he didn't show up. Um, he apologized. He set up a time for a phone call, didn't make the call. So this went on off and on for a year, and I was persistent. I continued to engage and inquire. And finally, we met at the 49er facility, after which he invited me to a Warriors game. And I sat in, um, for a couple chapels. And then all of a sudden, he called and said, "Hey, I can't make it. I'm stuck in traffic. Are you on your way to the game?" I was like, "Cool, I am." So he says, "All right, I need you to do the lesson, the life lesson for today." So I had 20 minutes to figure out what it was I was going to say because this was my one shot. And um, so I got there, had my little lesson on my phone. Steph Curry shows up, Draymond, Andre Iguodala, um, Harrison Barnes. Um, who else was there? James Harden. So because it's the home and away team that show up for Chapel, so Chapel is packed. It's like 20 guys in there.
James Harden was there?
Yeah. Yep. And so we're sitting in there, and I give this lesson about faith that moves mountains, and I ended with this caption that I would say for the next 2 or 3 years working with them: have faith, have fun, and have fight. And then so they started repeating that after that season at the end, and the rest is history. So I was a part of the first championship run in 2013-14, and I did it for 3 seasons.
Wow. And were you able to lead more of those sessions, or were you sort of back to the benches after that?
So out of let's see. So there at the time 84 regular season games, 42 home games. And so out of 42 home games, I would do 21 lessons. So so I did 50% of all the lessons for 2.5 seasons.
And why'd you leave after 3 years?
I didn't get paid. it
Okay.
was a volunteer role. So I was at the homeless shelter moonlighting as an assistant to the chaplain for the Warriors. And, you're talking about 42 home games that I would have to leave work early and drive to and not get paid, no tickets, great relationships. I still talk to the players and they still reach out for support or whatever, but I needed to make money. So
Joe Lacob couldn't find $100K to kick down from.
That role is the most undervalued, unappreciated role in any professional sports team, definitely the NBA, but it's also under the radar. So most of the executive layer don't even know it exists, especially Joe and Peter Guber.
Right. Yeah. I think all the players know it, but not the owners. Tell me about what you're most excited about right now. Like what's giving you juice to like show up?
This notion that ownership is the new black. And although it's not new as in, historical, because we have Black Wall Street, Greenwood. We have other places, similar to that in history. But I believe that the time has now come that Black and Brown folks are tired of building spaces, communities, and places that we don't own and are vulnerable to be displaced. And so currently, like my excitement comes from creating solutions, providing access, and connecting an ecosystem of people that can create this ownership pathway for Black folks, whether it's, owning homes, whether it's owning our places of business, whether it's owning the brands that we wear, whether it's owning our own brand and identity, whether it's whatever it is, we have to own it in order to start to close this gap. So, like currently, I'm super excited about how we build wealth through the pathway of ownership.
Are you seeing examples of that playing out, or like how does that? How are you seeing that facilitated? How are you seeing that?
Yeah, so there's so in every um, area of the Black experience, there is an opportunity to own. We are still the largest consumer in the world. Um, whether it's clothing, whether it's hair care products, all the above, but we receive the least benefit from these numbers and these statistics. And so we're creating here at Evolve, we're creating opportunities for learning that you can own in every arena. Pick one you can own in that arena. Okay, how do I own what I wear? All right, let's talk about the brands. And let's talk about what it's like to get into stocks for the brands that you wear. Okay, how do I own my own home? All right, here's a pathway to doing that. Whether it's the 1, 2, 3s, whether it's down payment assistance, we're creating pathways to ownership as opposed to just saying what folks need to do. We're showing them how they get there.
Yeah, and I guess I should have asked you earlier. Tell me about Evolve. I know it's evolved several times. Just so folks know what Evolve is and sort of that sort of vision you've been holding.
Yeah, I would say if I can just speak at a high level, Evolve is a village. We're a village that creates spaces for people to work together to secure like this upward mobility for Black communities and leaders. We are a brain trust for healing and for relationship cultivation. We are a container for entrepreneurial development and enhancement. We are a safe space for creatives to collaborate and come together to build and grow and to exchange meaningful ideas to make the world a better place.
And that came from. Can you talk about the model that you all evolved from? Of more of like
So we were a part of. So Evolve was birthed out of the Impact Hub. So the Impact Hub for Oakland started in 2013 with 7 core founders, 4 women of color that pretty much led the charge. And the model was around creating this entrepreneurial co-working space, creating solutions for a world that works for all. So there was co-working as a part of the model, events, office rentals, so there was some tenancy there, and general flex space rental. And then there was the programmatic side of it for entrepreneurs and creatives and artists. But the business model was based around those 4 key areas: the events, co-working, general space rental, and office occupancy. So Evolve as we transitioned or moved into a 501c3, we're looking to build this hybrid. You can't create ownership out of a nonprofit. So how do we stay true to our mission, but also not leave any money on the table? If you want to give it, we'll have a platform to receive it.
Have you have y'all thought about a multi-stakeholder cooperative?
We have. That's not my expertise, and so we're building a team to talk about what that layer looks like. I call it meaningful ownership.
Yeah, and I know when you mentioned the four areas, you know, co-working, events, office rentals, that's basically all four areas hit by COVID, right? So it's basically the whole business got hit for.
Yeah, we lost 80% of our revenue in 11 days, and during that 12-month cycle, we creatively built it back. We went from 8% occupancy of office rentals to 95% during the pandemic. We went from zero events, of course, because we couldn't have them, to now on calendar being booked through Q1 of 2022. So like for us, it's we treat people as people and not as tenants or as quote unquote members. We're all a part of a family community of change makers. That's why people want to be here. It's not because the building is super sexy, which it is. It's not because it's centrally located, which it is, but it's because there's a vibe, there's a spirit, there's a synergy when you walk in the door that's created by the people inside, not by the walls. So therefore, we can evolve anywhere, whether it's 2323 Broadway, whether it's in DC, whether it's in Oklahoma, whether it's in LA, whether it's right down the street. Evolve is where our spirit is, not where the chairs and the desks are.
And have you all? I know that you all are moving out of that space. Have you found a new location, or like how are you thinking about the next step for this company?
So a part of the decision to leave was based on the cost structure to stay here. Our rent is $41,000 a month, and the landlord wants to go up to market in 2.5 years, which could easily take us to 62, 65,000 a month. And so the work that we do is not around um, doing work to fill the pockets of white folks. So if our goal is Black ownership, we have to position ourselves to move in that direction. So our interim step will be a downsized version of where we are, whether it's 2,500 feet, whether it's 4,000, whatever that is. But we're looking to be in partnership with another anchor that maybe does the side of the work that we don't do. It could be, you know, um, um, health, fitness, spirituality, mindfulness. It could be that side of the entrepreneur that's left untapped, and we come together and we create something beautiful in a smaller space, while at the same time kind of figure out what this ownership model looks like. So we believe that a gathering space is important to the Black experience. So we're not looking to just solely go remote or virtual, um, because historically Black folks need to be around other Black folks, not other screens. We need to touch, we need to feel, we need to sing, we need to dance, we need to collaborate, gather, and we need the physical space to do that. So, but it'd be a downsized version of where we are.
The more you talk about this piece around ownership, the more it makes sense. And I'm wondering if the pandemic and sort of being forced to like reconsider everything actually accelerated your sort of move to this sort of belief? Do you think that's true?
Oh, absolutely. It well, it didn't accelerate the belief, but it definitely accelerated how we move and at what speed, right? Because when you have the luxury of 95% earned income or earned revenue, sometimes you get lazy with the mission because you have money coming in and it's flowing. And when that stops, you're forced to reevaluate what were you doing, what are you doing, and what you're going to do. And so that, indeed, the pandemic was a driver to us accelerating that journey.
I'm curious, on the flip side of what are you most excited about? What are the top 2 to 3 things that keep you up at night these days?
One is white supremacy and how, despite over the 12 months, the more recent um, re-traumatizing exposure to white supremacy, there is this subtle moving to the background yet again. It's not the current news story. It's not as prevalent. It's not being talked about. Um, Funding and philanthropy is slowing down once again. Like it's not a news story anymore. Um, and the truth is, it was never a news story. It's always been um, a historical system of patriarchy, sheer evil, systems of oppression. Like so that keeps me up. White supremacy. Number two is this this anti-blackness um, with black folks. It's within our own culture and how we, you know, can to allow money to turn us against the very folks that we say we're trying to serve. And that's disheartening when white folks can use black folks to harm other black folks. So that would be two. And I would say the last thing is selecting the right team of folks to vision out this future perfect of what Black ownership looks like through Evolve. Those would be the three.
Man, are you getting any sleep based on that?
Based on that, no sleep at all.
Yeah. You know, um, and it's interesting because I think white supremacy is like causing the anti-blackness within black folks too. So it's almost like the same the same tentacles reaching back. One of the things I've been trying to think about, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this, is there's sometimes thinking and visioning within, like, say, what's like a 2 to 5 year time frame can be too paralyzing because it's like there's just too many constraints on like what's possible. So I've been trying to do like 100 year, 500 year visioning of like what does this ideal anti-racist or next economy look like? And I'm curious if you've done any work on that and like what is this future that we're actually like trying to create a clearer picture of the future might help us actually want it more, like move towards it. I don't know. It's just been something I've been trying to think about. So if you know if you have any thoughts on that or any references or resources or
Yeah, you know, currently, Ryan, if I'm being 100% honest, um, the same thinking that I've done over the last 25 years is the same thinking that I'm doing now. How can we live in the world, and if I can draw it in a little bit closer, how can we live in a country where there is no lack? Like there is extreme wealth and there is extreme poverty. But how can we live where there is no lack amongst people? And that's wealth, health, food, climate, so environment. What what does that look like? And how do we pull those pieces together? So for me, 50, 100 years, that's what it looks like. We like we're actually living together where there is no lack. Like there is a refusal to there's a refusal as a body of people um, to allow someone to be hungry or be or have housing insecurity a mile from where there's wealth and prosperity. So we can talk about resources and data and reports and who's doing what, but I'm kind of burned out with spending more money on data collection and reports, and there's no force or activity behind it. So I'm not sure if that's the answer you were looking for, but that's the one I have.
I mean, the wealth, health, food, climate is definitely resonates. Um, I mean, if I'm spitballing, like in this future, there would be no like prisons or police because you wouldn't need that. Um, there'd be like more capacity to help folks. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out like what is this vision, and getting more clear on that, um, so that I can motivate myself and others to.
The word that comes up for me is like we use this word so loosely, but collectivism, right? Like how do we mobilize together? See, there has to be like there's some power issues happening because you can get five really great nonprofits to come together and work on these things, but if we don't have power and whatever power looks like, whether it's influence, whether it's the network, whether it's money, whatever, we're not going to be able to really move the needle. It's just a fact. Power moves. It's power that moves, and folks that have it don't give it up, or they give it up to other people that have power. So there's this transfer of power at the top, but there's no release of power to those that are actually doing work to make the world a better place.
Yeah, the what comes to mind when you say that is like, do you see the Mackenzie Scott donations? I mean, at least one person seems to be not requiring in her philanthropy. She's at least not requiring them to do, people to do something with the money that she decides. And I guess the critique would be continue to fund those frontline groups, but how do you curb Amazon's power? Like, I think that's another piece of this is like Amazon is causing this in a way.
Yeah, I mean, but that comes through government regulations and all of those things, and I would imagine that the government is benefiting off of Amazon's power. So someone has to be willing to give up something and or hold people or these systems or these corporate conglomerates accountable, um, that we're going to live in a different world, and you know that's that transfer of power but not a release of power.
Yeah. Tell me about how you're thinking through this, selecting the right team of folks to vision this future perfect. Like, what is the process you're thinking about to like hold that?
It starts with those areas that I mentioned. So if it's food justice, so if it's food, if it's um, entrepreneurship, like what are those pillars, and who are the folks that represent those pillars? All right, so boom, here are the pillars. What do we need to build in order to activate those pillars? Okay, we need real estate. All right, well, the the people that are representing these 4 or 5 pillars, that's not that's not what they do. So then we need to pull somebody in that's aligned with those 4 or 5 pillars that can then begin to build um, that system around those pillars. So I'm looking at it that way, um, and then pulling in the folks that have that shared mission and vision around building out this community.
And is the constraint just people's time? It's just hard to get everyone together in the same room.
Yeah, I would say it's um it's threefold. One would be getting those folks in the same room, um, because everyone's schedule is busy for things that they're not getting paid to do. Um, Two, the vision of it is so big that sometimes it's difficult to for that person to see like where their fit is and how can they make that type of time investment. Um, so and then three, whatever three is, I don't know, but definitely those two.
Here's a few sort of random questions for you. What's the book you most often give as a gift?
The Medici Effect. It's a book by Hans Johansson, who basically the book talks about bringing um, stakeholders from different industries together to create solutions for some of the world's greatest problems. So, so if you want to build a beautiful community, you don't start with a room full of builders. And so he talks about a time where there was a doctor, there was someone that's formerly incarcerated, there was a hairdresser. Like there was this hodgepodge of folks that came into a room and just began to have a conversation. Um, and then from that conversation, they brought varied perspectives from different lenses and environments and sectors and industries of work, and created some really powerful solutions around community building and development.
I can see why you like that book. It's like what you're trying to do. What is your absolute most favorite thing to do in the world?
Watch basketball.
Not just watch any basketball, watch good basketball, right?
Yeah, I've almost thrown up in my mouth watching bad basketball.
So now do you just go back and watch like 2016, 17 Warriors highlights to like feel good?
I actually go back to the rivalries with Bird and Magic. So the Celtics and the Lakers, some of their championship series, great team basketball. Um, yeah, I don't prefer watching any one particular player. I love watching just good team fundamental basketball.
So it's interesting because you actually know some of these players and you've been exposed to them. And what do you see? Like, what is that? Like, are these people obsessive, compulsive, like types, or like how do you even get to that level? Like, what do you? What is the like? What takes them to that next level where they can like someone like a Steph or a KD? Like, what is it about them?
Yeah, I would say I could take let's take Draymond. I have a strong relationship with Draymond, and let's use him as an example. Draymond used the fuel of um, of his pick positioning in order to become one of the best all around players the game has ever seen. And so he used that as fuel for his off-season workouts. He used that as his fuel on the court. He used it as his fuel, just in how he guards every player, how he coaches from the bench. So there's one side of it. There's like the competitive um, ego side of it, but then there's the escape side. And what I realized with most of the players, especially the black athletes, is that the will to be great also comes from the desire never to go back to where they came from. So there's a different psychological component, and you hear players say all the time, there could be chaos going on around me, but when I step on the court, everything goes away. Because the court is the hospital. The court is the place of solace and peace and tranquility. It's where all of the cares and the worries of the life around them, past and present, they go away for those 2.5, 3 hours. So then they stay in the gym. So then they extend their careers past time. So there's all of those pieces to it.
I'd never thought about the piece around not wanting to go back for black athletes, but that makes a lot of sense.
It's a different grit, and a different path to getting there for black athletes. It is. The temptations are different. The training is different. Um, from grade school to college, like that pathway is different. Black athletes typically have to, um, because the schools in their current district and environment where they live are awful schools, so they have to get bused to other schools. But the only way they have that opportunity is because they are elite athletes at that age group and are being bred to be professional athletes. So like there's a whole 5 to 18 pipeline that that athletes are in, and they call it AAU. Like that is a breeding ground. So I could get into that on another day, but
what do people never ask you that you wish they did?
How am I doing? And so the question that never comes to me is the question that I typically always ask. It's like, no, I know what you do for work. I know the people that you're working hard to give opportunity and access to, but how are you doing as a human on this planet? And I think that's a missing piece in most of our conversations in doing good.
Can I ask you that question? How you're doing on a soul level?
I would say, I'm okay. I'm all right. It's tough. It's challenging with work. Um, I have a daughter that's going to college in August to Xavier University in Louisiana. Um, balancing the battery. Um, I like to look at my life as a battery that has 4 bars, and um, no one area of my life can get all bars. So how do I evenly distribute and prioritize who gets what bars and for how long? That's a challenge because every area of my life feels as if they are the priority. Um, and so typically none of those areas consider me and my self-care as a part of that, the bars that need time and attention. So that's been a struggle.
I can see that, man. People, they want you around. they like you because you're an amazing person, and they don't that is a draw again on your energy.
And we have to decide, we have to decide as managers of our own um, beings, like I am my own manager. The first person I'm called to lead is myself. And so I have to set up healthy boundaries on how I properly distribute the bars on the battery. But who does that well? And when you find them, send them my way.
Yeah, I've heard it said, and you may have heard this slightly different framing around like there's 5 areas in life, but you can only give your attention to 3 of them. It's like family, health, work, uh, exercise, and friends. I think those are the 5. And like two of those are going to suffer. Last last few questions here for you, David. Who are you looking to for inspiration? Like, who or what is inspiring you these days?
There's a woman in particular lately that is giving me just deep inspiration. Her name is Dr. Darcel Lar. She is out of Mills College, professor there, I believe. Just a brilliant woman of color who, yeah, she just gets it. And so lately, every call that I'm on, or every time I get the opportunity to just listen to her speak, she shares some golden nuggets, not just about the plight of Black America, but about the pathway, like how, like we can get there, and this is how we get there. And so she's able to take what's been in my brain for years, and she speaks it with such poetry and eloquence and and strategy. So she would be like the person that I'm really drawing from right now. And then I would say um, my middle daughter Kennedy is just amazing. Um, just she's just I can't even put it into words. She's a quiet force to be reckoned with. She was given a prompt after reading the book To Kill a Mockingbird, which she despises. She was given a prompt to do an essay on the book around this particular question. And then the teacher read excerpts from the book. Her white English teacher read excerpts from the book using the N word. And it was just complete insensitivity. And so what Kennedy did was she 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 complied to the prompt and wrote an entire essay based on the prompt. And right under it, she wrote a whole nother essay about her feelings on the book, why it shouldn't be required reading, why it should be taken out of the book list, why teachers shouldn't be allowed to use the N word under any circumstance. Like she did a whole nother essay, respectfully, beautifully written, and didn't say anything about it. We somehow found out that she wrote it, and then it turned into a whole thing. Um, she ended up speaking in front of the board of education for Fairfield Sassoon Unified School District, and and then she turns around and gets all A pluses on her final report card, and she was honored as student athlete of the year, like all these things that we didn't know. As parents, we support her education, we make sure she has everything that she needs, but every time, hey, how's everything going? Oh, it's okay, I got it. And so she's so humble about it. So she would be who I'm also drawing a different type of inspiration from.
Isn't that great when you can sort of take a small bow and be like, thank you, I'm her dad. Like the last 2 things here. So we often ask guests towards the end, what do you need right now, and how can the listeners help you grow this next economy?
Yeah, I would say we need a space to call home. Um, we need a space to call home. Doesn't have to be 22,000 feet. We definitely don't need that, but we need space to call home. So if anyone has connections around space in Oakland, um, we'll be happy to have those conversations. Um, and I would say the second thing is financial partnership. Everything doesn't, like for us, I believe that everything doesn't have to be around a particular project or, nope, I have money, but I won't give you money because I only support climate. I only support entrepreneurship. I only support women. It's like, hey, you know what? We're an organization that is kicking ass, supporting a few different pillars. And right now, we need support in research and development and in some of the things that we're working on as an organization. So space and some financial support.
And where can folks go to learn more, like donate and all that good stuff?
Yeah, there's information on our website and also a letter that talks about our moving of the current space. That is evolveoakland.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at Evolve Oakland and also Facebook Evolve Oakland. There's information on the social platforms and also our website. And you can email me directly, David at evolveoakland.com.
Love it. Thank you, David. And I know you have some events coming up. First Friday, July 2nd. And then the Renewal Mill is going to be a pop-up there from 5 to 8. So thanks for coming, David. Really appreciate you, and let's do it again sometime.
I appreciate it, Ryan.
Next Economy Now is a production of Lift Economy. To listen to all of our episodes, go to lifteconomy.com/podcast. That's LIFT economy.com/podcast. You can also sign up for our monthly newsletter at lifteconomy.com/newsletter. Please also rate and review our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.